working folk don't have a chance unless we organise. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on?
Our first speaker is a parent involved with the Katoomba Primary School and the high school and the P&C, and her name is Toni Clark. Toni Clark?
Oh, she is.
Yeah, there, right. Toni Clark, and she's going to talk on how Gonski is helping the education system.
Well, I stand here next to you.
That's fine.
Very good. Thank you for having me. I'm not a Gonski expert. I don't know all the details. I have one here in my back pocket. She's got a Gonski shirt on. But I've been asked tonight to share with you my Gonski story. I'm sure lots of you know a lot about the Gonski story already. But just for me and my family. So I've lived in Katoomba 18 years. I've got 4 kids, and they've gone to Katoomba Primary School and Katoomba High School. And my oldest child is in second year at uni, so she's at Macquarie Uni doing commerce and law, and she went through in 2014, so the very first year of the 6-year funding at Gonski. About 5 kids in her year got in the 90s. I've lived here a long time and I don't remember that ever happening before. Lots and lots of Gemma's, the students in her class are at uni. When I say to her, tell me where everyone's at, she goes, oh, well, you know, we've got a Navy and an Army and, a few of the others, but everyone's at uni. Like, almost the whole cohort have gone off. I mean, the success of her year for her and for her year has been about potential, about individuals and potential. And when I tell this story about why that happened, it's greatly to do with this mentoring that happened in that year. And I didn't know that this was Gonski funded, and I've only just recently found this out. So they asked the kids at the end of year 11, we're going to put an individual mentoring program together, we're going to give you a coach, an HSC coach, who would you like? So they put a bit of paper in with 3 teachers' names, and then they were offered a teacher. And that teacher made them coffees. It was a sport teacher, invited them into the PE staff room. He took them away on a camp where they did some bonding stuff and, went through the UAC syllabus with them. The kind of things that busy working parents can't get their head around, and the busy teachers can't get their head around unless they're relieved from their class duty. And that's what that funding was for. And they still meet with him when they're in the mountains at uni break. The 4 of them that he had in his little peer mentoring group, they get together and they just talk about what's going on at uni for them. I mean, it's 2 years past. He's got a new group of kids he mentors, but he's still doing it. Gemma would send her work to him at 9 o'clock on a Friday night, and she'd get it back before midnight. He was really geared up, and he was part of a sort of momentum that happened at Katoomba High that I think was the new principal, and also here's some money, here's what we can really do with this. And there's a girl in Gemma's year who's one of 7, she's the oldest of 7. None of her family have ever been to university. She's there and she's thriving and she's doing really well. And her 6 siblings all will follow that path. They're bright kids. We live in a town that struggles, but that's there. She absolutely reached her potential. I also have a child, my second child, who went off to Blue Mountains Grammar School. She got a big scholarship to go, and her grandparents paid for it, just in case anyone wanted to get that detail. And so I've had a really good opportunity to be able to compare that public school and private school thing. And you know what the story is? I'm sure you know it's about resources. So the classes are smaller. The teachers are paid more money. There's less load on them. The detail is extraordinary when you go to a Blue Mountains Grammar School teacher interview compared to the kind of thing that Katoomba High School can offer. And I think, of course that's not fair. If I could talk to every Liberal Party voting person in the Blue Mountains and talk about this, they would agree that it's not fair. And I understand the Gonski structure, the program, what they call the architecture of the Gonski funding is about, looking at those kids who've got extra needs, the Aboriginal kids, the poor kids, the kids who grew up in rural and remote towns, the disabled kids, the kids who don't speak English as their first language. Of course we want those kids to for the teachers to grab hold of them and to give them what they need, and we can't do that unless we fund schools properly. I just heard this story yesterday that Liberal Party gets in on, if they get in on, you know, the 3rd of July, that the Blue Mountains schools, the schools in the Macquarie electorate will lose $27 million in funding. There's 52 schools. That's a great story to tell. I can't imagine my day will go between now and the campaign that I won't be talking to my work colleagues and my children's parents, you know, friends or whatever about that story. I just have a few other things that I wanted to point out to you, which I'm looking at my list. I grew up in Taree. You know, we had lots of Aboriginal kids in our class in primary school, and the school's method of trying to keep those kids in school was to pay them cash. I mean, this was in the late 70s, early 80s. Those kids disappeared by the time we were in year 7. We didn't have any Aboriginal kids left in our school. I don't think much has changed for them. You know, I don't want my money to go to kids who don't need it. I want the education system to look after all of those children. So I understand that teachers have been campaigning for a fair model, you know, for 20 years. The Gonski model comes in, it's funded. We know that at the end of that 6 years, the first year was 2014, we know that at the end of that 6-year period, they will be looking at the minimum resource standard. And in the beginning of listening to Gonski, minimum resource standard doesn't mean anything to me. Now I think about that each child is looked at and assessed for what they need, and given that resourcing, that the school has the funds to be able to deal with that, then that makes it fair. And the Liberal Party gets in and that will not be happening. And that's just outstanding to me. I can't understand that a conversation that would be held with any person that they would disagree with, you know, with that system, and yet it's now off the table that the Liberal Party is not going to honour the needs-based funding model, and that's outrageous. So I'm not sure where I'm at in terms of 5 minutes, but...
Yep, that's 5 minutes.
All right, just quickly. So I've been part of the Katoomba Public School P&C for a long time, and one of the things we've done for a long time is raise money. And in the beginning, we were part of the Blue Mountains Music Festival, and it's a great story to tell. 2002, we raised about $1,800, a very small amount of money that we could add to the Katoomba Public School budget. We're at that point now, the festival's grown, our involvement's grown, that we can offer $40,000 worth of fundraising to Katoomba Public, Katoomba High, Katoomba North. It's extraordinary. But it's not enough. And about 10 years ago, we raised $10,000, and our principal said to us, I'd really like to put this funding toward this maths program called Quick Smart. And we all said, oh, that's great, that's fantastic, tell us about it. And he said, it's for 10 kids. It's for a year in year 6 to make sure those kids get off to high school and they'll be able to cope in high school with maths. Lots of parents saying, well, we can't spend all this money that hundreds of people have raised with hundreds of hours for only 10 kids, we can't do that. So we said no. And our principal went ahead and funded that program because the teachers know exactly what kids need, and they know that once they lose those kids, they go into high school, they're never going to get that chance back again. And now I think $40,000, that's lots of money, but it's nothing compared to the kind of money that the Education Department needs. We can't do it. P&Cs can't make the gap. They can't provide for the funding for kids who really need intensive maths and literacy programs, or kids who can't speak properly, kids who are going through a difficult time, and I'm at 5 minutes and that's it. I just have to say 2 things that I've been asked to say. One is that there's a Gonski weekend coming up, and there's a door knock in the Windsor area on Sunday, June 19, if you want to come and wear green and join in that. And also that Winter Magic Festival, there'll be people parading in green on Saturday the 18th of June. That's it.
Run through the fire, run through the flame, run through the hatred, run through the flame, run through the hopelessness and shame. Revolution already on the way.